Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
There we go. We're live. What's up, everybody?
Doug, it is good to be back with you in sorts.
It is good to be back with you in sorts. Tell everybody, where are you today? What are you doing?
Today, I am celebrating my friend Jim Pinkston and his son Jack. They are getting married. Well, Jack and Jim aren't, but Jack and Gabby are. So Jim's going to have to give a speech here in probably 5 hours. So we will celebrate their lives. So we're working from Denver.
That's really cool. So you've been on the road, exploring the West. I know that's something you love to do. You love to be in motion. And so what's this past couple of weeks been like for you, Keith?
It has allowed me the opportunity to spend some time with friends that I haven't seen in a while. Some friends actually traveled to where we were that I had seen, but got some specific time with them. Had dinner with my friend Lynn and her children last night. My buddy Russ was out of town, but we had a wonderful visit here locally. I gave a speech Saturday night with the prompting to collect, like a scavenger hunt, unexplainable stories. And I was sitting
back up. All right. So you gave a speech Saturday night. What were you doing Saturday night?
Well, I was just asked to give a speech, so I was giving a speech.
Okay. So Keith was given a speech, and this speech was at his daughter's reception.
Well, that little detail. Yeah. And I mean, that's the topic of today, is to offer to our young married friends some advice. And so at Kristen's reception, she asked me to officiate the wedding, which the wedding literally, with me officiating, it was 5 minutes. And the long speech came at the reception. But the idea of collecting unexplainable stories is kind of really the best way I can explain what living by faith is. And so yesterday morning, Connie and I were trying to decide, what are we going to do in Denver? And we stopped at a local coffee shop, and then we called our friend Charlie to find out. He's got a lot more experience in this area than us. What should we do? And Charlie said, you won't believe what just happened. He was somewhere near Page, Arizona, at some isolated location, just he and Vicky, just the two of them. And in pulls a car with our friends Dan and Stacy. Unexplained.
And I had a FaceTime with Dan and Stacy yesterday. He wanted to show me, where was he? I'm drawing a blank. Somewhere in Utah. It was great. Some hole in the ground that looked beautiful. So they saw each other?
Unplanned, unexplained, which is what I challenged in my speech. And so Connie and I, while we're sitting there talking to Charlie, he goes, well, you could go over to the Red Rocks. And friends of ours have actually played there at the Red Rocks Amphitheater. I thought, well, that kind of be fun to see the Red Rocks. So we roll into the Red Rocks, and I'm just being me. I'm just like, Connie's walking separate from me, and I'm walking kind of spacing out, doing my thing. And I kept hearing, Keith, like probably 5 or 10 times. And I'm like,
Lord. Yes, Lord.
Exactly. And I'm looking around, and there's these men I probably haven't seen in 5 or 10 years. My brain's going, trying to put a face to the name. And finally it clicks in. And our friend Kelly Martin, it was her husband, was one of the people that was yelling at us. And I look up, and our former coworker Julie came walking towards me. And I was like, how do you explain? It's unexplainable because of the many things we could have been doing. So that was kind of a lot of fun, considering the speech I gave over the weekend. Those two things happened like that. So it's pretty cool.
That is great. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Up Your Average podcast. This podcast, This podcast started off as a dream. This podcast was a way to communicate with yous, the ideas that bounce between Keith's ears and mine. And just quick disclaimer today for those of you driving down that beautiful road, these thoughts and opinions are those of Keith Tyner, Doug Shreve, and should we rope Gimbal Financial? I mean, Libby might want to go through a script before she approves these thoughts, and says, but anyway, these are thoughts of Gimbal Financial, and we're a registered investment advisor. Sometimes we like to talk about things like the stock indexes and stuff like that. But today, we're just throwing out our opinions. Okay, so these are just our opinions. There's our disclaimer, Keith.
Hey, Doug, why don't we offer another kind of midweek show next week and update on the market as well? Can we do that next week since we've got a lot?
I'd be down.
Okay.
Man, it is. I would love to. Yes, I'd be down with that.
So here's the deal. This month would have been my parents' 70th anniversary, Doug.
Wow.
70. But on my 33rd anniversary, look at the nice place I took Connie to spend the night. The Blue Swallow Motel.
Wait. Pull that shirt up a little bit one more time. My favorite thing is they've got TV on there.
Oh, I don't know if I can turn around. See if you guys can. I don't know how to even.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Oh, good. This is a family show.
Can you read the back?
I like that. 100%. Not 90. 100%. Were they window units?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, everybody has a picture of this place in their mind, and some of us love it. The others would just keep driving by.
So that was our 33rd anniversary. We spent the night there. It's kind of living large,
Yeah,
so
way to go.
Nothing but the best for my bride.
Nothing but the finest.
So I had in mind with Kristen and Brock getting married and Jack and Gabby walking the aisle today that we might, from our own shared experience, offer ideas that suggest encouragement to young newlyweds. Because I would suggest that this could be one of the largest economic events of your life if you mismanage it, right? Managing it wisely is probably more important than managing your 401k, managing your IRA, all the other questions people call us about. I'd say this is probably the most important place to put your brain. So that's my.
And you say you've got 33?
33 behind us, babe.
Okay, yeah. 33. Cool. Yeah. So Keith, in Keith fashion, he put together this awesome slideshow presentation for you. So for those of you, again, if you're out on a nature hike and you've chosen to listen to Up Your Average, we're talking about marriage. You can't see the screen, but marriage is awesome.
So we gave you our top 5 ideas, and in financial matters, I just was thinking, what should a young newlywed couple know about financial things? What do you offer with that, Doug?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and especially because for a lot of young married couples, they've never made any money before. You get out of college, get your first job, and it's more money than you've ever seen. and so that could come with a lot of great opportunities to ramp up your lifestyle, to go big, to do all the things that your mom and dad would never let you do. I'm not going to be like mom and dad. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to get a new car, whatever. And so with financial matters, I think if I could say the first thing to do, if you just got married, combine your stuff. Combined into a bank account, combined where your paychecks go, and then begin to talk about it.
Yeah. So what my experience has shown with that, Doug, is that when people have separate bank accounts, they don't communicate very well, and that creates a lot of fat in their budget. Connie offered me the suggestion for y'all that you live within your means. That doesn't sound that hard, but it can become challenging. And she also said that you don't have to have everything all at once, which really makes sense,
Oh yeah, and living within your means. I'm gonna throw this one out there because I heard this one late in life, within the last couple of years. This is a close friend of the office's. He said to me, his dad's an accountant. He said, my dad told me to never spend more than I make, and so I spent everything that I made.
That's hilarious.
And so if you're going to live within your means, that's cool. Definitely do that. But it would be very easy just to spend everything you make and think that you're doing the right thing.
One of the financial matters that Connie and I incorporated in our world was when we were looking at furniture that we thought would be around for a while. We spent a lot on it. When we were looking at temporary furniture, I don't like IKEA, but I like for our dining room table, I wouldn't go to IKEA for that because it's not going to last. But our dining room table is where we raise the kids. We spent for us a big amount of money on that, and it's got tons of history. It's dated now, probably will end up in the Goodwill one day, but we didn't have to replace it over all these years. So that was a basic financial matter for us, and we can go into more ideas with this on other shows that Doug.
Okay, yeah. All right, Keith, what do you have for have fun together? What's that look like?
Well, one of our friends, Ethan Jackson, I was having coffee with him it was lunch with him and a friend of his. And he said, be sure to go on an annual getaway with your wife. And that just made a lot of sense. It allowed us to communicate about things, get away from the kids. And, if our budget didn't allow for financial matters, we couldn't get away, to someplace fancy. You could go to an Airbnb really easily now and get away for a couple of days, get some babysitters. But to do something like that at least once a year makes a ton of sense for me.
The thing that we had done early on in having fun together, we had a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun now. But when I think of having fun together, I think of co-recreation. And it's just choosing something to do together. And I would encourage you to make that something. It could be a hobby. It could be an adventure. It could be her hobby. It could be the thing she's good at. It could be something that you've both never done before. But to have fun together, I think starts with just co-recreation. And one of the real fun co-recreation things we're doing right now is last year some friends invited us to play pickleball. We had never played pickleball. And Keith, when we went out to Kristen's wedding, we actually brought our pickleball rackets. Now, we don't have Lululemon pickleball clothes and stuff like that, but you can go find a court for free, and it's just good, cheap fun, and just have some competitive interactions with each other. It's a good time.
That's beautiful. When Connie and I got married, I found a book called His Needs and Her Needs, and the author was talking about that both have unique needs, and so in there, the author suggested you do just what you said, that you build your hobbies together, because it doesn't really bring for commonality to start having individual hobbies that you build as adults that go in different directions. So bringing your time together is kind of a big deal. And along that same line, Doug, I'd say prioritize one another greater than your kids. It's really easy when the kids start shooting out to prioritize them above one another, but making sure that you do, like you said, go out to dinner together and enjoy each other regularly, so the kids don't. I think there's a temptation the kids can create a barrier between the spouses, and I would encourage you not to do that. And that's with somebody who's got 5 of them, and they are manipulative little things, man. They will try to get in between you and do whatever they can. I'm not sure exactly how that happens, but they have a way of doing that.
I know I'm talking sports here, but like as a son of my mom and dad, one of the things that brings me a lot of joy is my parents go play golf together, and they do it once a week. And they do it up here in the Midwest, and then when they go down south to Florida, they play golf together. And guys, I tell you, that just really warms my heart that my parents do that. The other really huge, great benefit of that is I get to see them out there growing friendships. And those friendships, when they're in their, low mid 70s, when something hits the fan, it's one of those golfing couples who checks on them or stops by the hospital to visit. It's really amazing the community that you can build from having fun together. Keith, you mentioned going out for dinner. I know I told you that going out for dinner was a big deal for me and Caroline. We would have a standing date on Friday nights where we'd go out to Chili's when we were first married, and we'd split a meal because I was broke, but we'd do it. We'd go out to Chili's, and it's during that time that we could just both relax. I could hear about Caroline's work week. She could hear about mine. But really what we were doing was we were dreaming together. She was hearing things that were important to me. I was hearing things that are important to her. We didn't write down bucket lists during those times. We'd done that before, but you're having conversation about the stuff that's important to you. And then you're out in the community together. And that's just, it's so fun to go out and have a meal with your spouse. And it's just be the two of you. It's just a great thing to do, whether it's Wendy's or whether it's, someplace fancy. I would lean more towards the Wendy's myself, or Chipotle, whatever you want. I don't make this like this has to be like a Ruth's Chris, thing. This is just kind of like you're establishing community. You're going somewhere together where people know your name.
We did that same thing, Doug, as Newlyweds. We combined kind of this date night and financial matters together because we set a goal to be debt free at a pretty rapid pace as a young couple. And so we didn't have certain things inside our apartment, one of which was cable TV. I don't remember how much it was, but we would go out to eat, I think just once a month or something, at a decent restaurant from what we were saving by not having cable TV. So we were kind of combining those ideas to get time together. I'd say my final thought on having fun together is that you started as friends.
Oh gosh. Yeah, go ahead, Keith. I'm redoing this.
You started as friends and just stay friends. Don't go away from being friends. And so even with this next bullet, I think romance and kindness prevail. Like to me, kindness means don't say things that you can't. Don't let anything flow out of your mouth that you'll regret saying. Like slow down when you're speaking to one another because you can never get those words back.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually pretty slow to speak and don't react. So I know some of our friends that are watching this, that's a more challenging thing. They're more emotional and say things quicker. But if you can slow down, I think it's going to save you a lot of heartache down the road.
Yeah, and if you are one of those who talks quick, kudos to you because you're probably a fast apologizer. You've probably had plenty of experience. That would be my life, and so. I just want to encourage you that saying I'm sorry and, saying, hey, I really blew it there. Boy, that's good communication. And my father-in-law, credit to him, he had told me when I had asked for Caroline's hand in marriage, he just asked me to have good communication with Caroline. And part of that is just knowing that you're going to blow it sometimes. You're going to blow it a lot, dudes. And it's important to be able to say, hey, I did blow it, and be honest with yourself. But the romance piece, that's another piece of advice. Keith, you chose that word. And that's the piece that Grandpa George gave me. He said, Doug, always have romance in your marriage. And, I've kind of got a romantic life, Pollyannish worldview, and it's a great worldview to have most days, guys, because you're seeing color in the world, you're enjoying things, even if it's raining, you're thinking, that gives the squirrels something to drink. And so having a romantic view on life is a lot of fun, especially being young in marriage, because you're picking up on what your spouse thinks or what they see as romance. And again, those are just fun conversations to have and open your worldview.
That book, His Needs and Her Needs, one of the things that he differentiated in there is that the females tend to need romance while the men tend to need sex. And he pointed out clearly how those weren't necessarily the same event. And when I think of romance, this is me. I don't have any data to back what I'm saying. I believe that most relationships start from the physical realm, and it takes some energy to keep the physical realm alive. And so romance is just an unbelievable way to make your wife know that she's the queen of the universe. And so you probably could gain some ideas, young couples, young husbands, from old guys like Doug and me. You could ask us some of the things we've done that have been special for our wives, and some of the things that I've been fortunate to have kind of brought to my mind have been memories for Connie that will probably last her longer than I will. I'll be around. There'll be ones that she'll take into the assisted living, but I think that takes some creativity, it takes some ingenuity, and it takes effort. And I would encourage you to romance your brides all your days.
That's a good word. Keith, I said take ownership, and this could be just where I am in life right now. This is not a great marriage book, but I read Jocko Williams' Extreme Ownership book, or let's be clear, I listened to it.
That's hilarious.
I don't want to,
tell our friends who Jocko is. I don't know that most of our listeners do.
He's an interesting guy. He's a military hero, and then he's gone on to be quite the entrepreneur in the fitness world, in the consulting world, business consulting. Just a very interesting guy. But the idea of taking ownership and taking ownership for where you are in life, maybe you're pretty ambitious. Maybe you're pretty ambitious and you're not where you want to be on a financial front, or you're not in a job or in a career where you want to be. But you can own your day, and you can control like what you're going to take action on, those thoughts that cross your path. You can work for something that's bigger than maybe just your job. And so taking ownership, I think, really starts with you. And then when you have a healthy mindset, that's going to inspire your family. That's going to inspire your wife. Taking ownership means, hey, I'm going to talk about the budget. I'm going to talk about our finances, or I'm going to spend a couple hours straightening stuff up at home. These are all just the little details that really matter. It could be, hey, we're trying to decide where we should go for Thanksgiving. Do we go to your parents' house or my parents' house? And taking ownership says, we're just going to have a conversation about it, and we're going to make a decision. It starts with making decisions, good decisions.
Well, when I think about it without Jocko's backdrop, my thought were, think about your story. Stephen Covey, in his, I forget his book's name, but it was kind of start with the end in mind. And although you're talking about getting married as the beginning, to have a story, you kind of got to finish the story, so that you're starting off in most weddings these days with a lot of energy, a lot of people celebrating all that. But when the crowd leaves, you're building your story. And I just have been connecting the idea of your story. When you're gone, it'll be history. And so you're building history by working together on this thing. And so my advice to young couples is that most people don't know how to be friends and don't have long friendships. And so I'll ask young couples, what's the longest friendship that you've had? And my friend just walked up here, so that's why I was smiling. And if you don't know how to have a long-term friendship. Like my longest term friendship ended a year ago when my friend Jim passed away, but we were friends for 40 plus years. Well, that took a lot of give and take to be his friend and probably for him to be my friend. But those kind of friends, most people, particularly with social media and stuff, you can defriend or unfriend or whatever the heck they call it. But the two things that I think most people have never had experience in, and they got to take ownership with these things, is the long-term nature of a marriage, right? Like there's going to be a lot of crazy things. If you wrote down all the crazy things that happened, it's going to take a lot of tenacity to work through those things and not lose patience with one another. So the long term is the first part, and the close proximity is the second part that most people have never really had to have ownership. Like with my friends that live here in Denver, we've been friends for almost 40 years, but we don't see each other all the time, and we're not in close proximity, so we can be friends in that way. But when you get married, you better take ownership. You're there. Connie and I rode in a car from Indianapolis all the way to Phoenix. That's really close proximity. So that's my advice on taking ownership with it, Doug.
Keith, what do you think about joining something bigger? What comes to mind?
The same idea that you've got a purposeful friendship. I know that I've been blessed with a lot of friends, but with a marriage, it's more of a purposeful friendship. We are moving somewhere, and I mentioned this in one of our conversations the past few weeks, Doug, kind of have a point on the horizon where you're going, start with the end in mind. And marriage is, from best I could figure out, I wore out AI asking their opinion on it. My nice. Opinion, yeah. My opinion is there's only two relationships in life where you get to choose your family members. One is marriage, and two is adopting a child. And those are intense decisions. But with marriage, you are creating, in my opinion, a revolutionary force. Like you are changing the universe with marriage. And I know people got emotional last week or so about the election. It is nothing compared to what the unifying of two personalities will do. And what the world will be radically different if you take the long-term mindset, realize you're creating a revolutionary force with your family. For example, Connie and I introduced to our family and our friend circle an idea called the exchange life. And it was a spiritual idea that is revolutionary, that we have as a couple seen the world change for the better. And so it's not just walking the aisle, but that you guys have this power force that is something bigger than you can ever imagine. And I would make the most of it. I would not get caught up in the short-term disagreements. The things that Connie and I have had disagreements with have nothing to do with the revolution that we've created.
Man, that's really well said. Yeah, I love the idea of something bigger. And early on for me and Caroline, we created a couples Bible study, and we invited old people. Like the old people were like maybe 45.
and Connie and I joined.
and so the old people came over to our little tiny, 1,100 square foot house, which we should have just lived in for the rest of our lives. But don't move too quick, kids. No, by inviting people in and creating a board of directors, we heard all kinds of stories and tragedies and work together moments from other people who had a couple decades on us. And so I look back on that and I think that was pretty bold to invite, to create a couples Bible study with the couple who had been married for like less than a year. But you don't have to be the expert on anything. But being a part of something bigger than yourself, it's a movement, and it's a movement in the right direction. Keith, you got anything else that you want to?
I do. There's more slides, Doug. You can go to the next one.
Okay.
Well, there's something bigger right there. Who would have known that that guy that had that fancy hairdo all those years ago, I'm kind of exaggerating, would one day stand at looks like the finish line, the dance floor, doesn't it? Like you won the race kind of thing.
Pretty cool.
And get to celebrate my daughter. And then the next picture is part of that revolution, or the big story is her celebrating that special day with Brock. What a cool thing.
Yeah, that was great pictures. I see some happy people in the background.
Well, it's great to be part of everybody's life that joined us today, Doug. I hope this brings encouragement to our young friends and old friends alike.
Enjoy the road in front of you, the trail that you're walking on, whatever you're doing when you're hearing this. Take courage and go for it. We'll see you next week.